Hello, my name is Ashley Sherrill, and this is my lesson plan for sections 1 through 3. My grade is 6th grade. My subject is science. My Common Core State Standard is CCSS.ELA Literacy RST.6/8.7. Integrate quantitative or technical information expressed in words in a text with a version of that information expressed visually, in a flowchart, diagram, model, graph, or table. What is your objective for student learning for this lesson? The student will be able to identify and demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the hierarchical relationship of cells, tissues, and organs. Why have you chosen this objective? I have chosen this objective because it is part of the student's Common Core State Standards for the 6th grade. I also chose this objective because it is important for students to know the relationship between cells, tissues, and organs in order to explain their function in multicellular organisms. Section 2, Student Grouping. How will you group students for instruction? At the beginning of the lesson, we will read the lesson from the book aloud, taking turns individually. The reading will review what cells, tissues, and organs are and how they relate. I will then show a diagram to the class that shows the hierarchical relationship of cells, tissues, and organs and explain the relationships to them. As I'm explaining the relationships, I will be asking questions to the students about information that has been reviewed in the previous reading assignments that has to do with characteristics of cells, tissues, and organs. To conclude the lesson, I will give a short handout quiz that covers the relationship of cells, tissues, and organs to each student to complete and turn in. I will evaluate the quizzes to make sure that each student understood the lesson. Why have you chosen this grouping? I chose this grouping because I feel that at times students learn better as groups and they pay attention more when they are aware that they may be called on to read aloud to the class. I feel that students pay attention when diagrams and models are used because they make topics and learning more interesting. Sometimes when you read something, it doesn't always make complete sense, but when you see something, it all comes together. This is the reason why I wanted the method of the diagram to show the hierarchical relationships of cells, tissues, and organs because it was a visual learning too. I chose to ask direct questions to students to make sure I had their attention on the lesson and to review with the class past information. I also chose a quiz at the end because I wanted to see if each student understood the lesson. Section 3, Methods, Instructional Strategies. What teaching method will you use for this lesson? The methods I have chosen to teach the content of my lesson will be reading aloud, lecture with class discussion, use of diagram by instructor teaching, independent evaluation. At the beginning of the lesson, the class will read aloud individually. Then I will lecture over the reading and have the class discuss and answer questions about the lesson. I will then show and explain the relationships of cells, tissues, organs by modeling a diagram to the class. Finally, I will evaluate the students independently by asking them to take out a pencil and paper and give them a short quiz over highlighted information from the lesson. Why have you chosen this method or these methods? I chose the read aloud method because I think that is the best way to introduce new information to students, and it helps them learn when they are following along with the reading, as well as hearing it be read to them. Lecture with class discussion is the best way for students to get accurate, clear information and be able to interact with the class with questions. The diagram by instructor teaching will allow me to visually show the students the relationship between cells, tissues, and organs by the displayed pictures, labeling, and connections. The independent evaluation will allow me to evaluate each individual student's understanding of the content of the lesson. This concludes my sections 1 through 3 of my lesson